Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today's video I'm going to be doing the next in my little series of 5 books you need to read. That's 10, 5. 5 books you need to read, and in this one we're going to be talking about 5 books you need to pre-order. So I wanted to highlight some upcoming releases that I think are really worth pre-ordering and supporting the author, and also they're just really great books, so you should have them on your radar. So I guess this is kind of like an anticipated releases video, but also I feel like restricting it to 5 books really allows me to talk about them, and these are all books I've read arcs of, so I can give detailed information. Yeah, just talk about some sort of upcoming releases that you might want to have on your radar. So yes, without further ado, let's just get started on them. And I'm going to try and go in order of publication, although it's a bit iffy because I'm not exactly sure on precise dates, but I will insert a little text clip of the exact date that it comes out on, so you know. Okay, so first of all we have Master of Jinn by P. Jelly Clark, and this one comes out at some point in May. For the exact date, read here. So this one it's set in kind of an alternative steampunky Cairo in the 1910s, I think it is, and basically we're following the main character Fatma, and she is also the main character in some of the his novellas. He has a couple of novellas. I think one is A Dead Djinn in Cairo and The Haunting of Tramcar 15. Yeah, so she is also a character in them, but this is her main book, and it's a full-length novel. And it's just so good. If you like City of Brass, you will love Master of Jinn because it features a lot of the same mythology. And again, it's that mythology with the djinn and just the kind of magic. It's just so transportive and magical. I don't know, it sort of feels almost like a bedtime story kind of thing. But yeah, so anyway, so magic in Cairo is a thing. So it's accepted that magical beings just live among people, and so that's kind of a really interesting aspect. And then so basically what happens is there's this cult that's this brotherhood of worship of this old historical figure called Al-Jazid, and one day they'll get murdered by this, or they think it's by this person who's this imposter claiming to be the recoming of Al-Jazid. So Fatma gets on the case, and she is then investigating what's happened to this brotherhood, and also who this imposter is claiming to be this second coming of Al-Jazid. So yeah, it's just very murder mystery, the classic. It kind of has those vibes, and it's kind of got a slightly lighter tone to it, there's a bit of a sense of humour. But also I think it's really good, especially the villain and the villain reveal. I think, well, I mean, the villain reveal is pretty cheesy, but I think it's the villain and their motivations are very interesting, and a reflection of kind of our world as it is, and also how it was. I don't want to say more because that would kind of spoil it, but it's very interesting. So she's always been someone who's likes doing things on her own style and likes to work by herself, and she gets paired with this new wide-eyed apprentice called Hadia, and they have to work together, and that's really entertaining. It's the grumpy mentor and the keen apprentice, and Hadia just so looks up to Fatma, and it's just so cute. And yeah, so I love their dynamic, and that's really entertaining. And then also City, who is Fatma's girlfriend, and she's such a character. She's very kind of charming and flirtatious, and but she's also a bit in and out of Fatma's life, so she comes and goes of her own will. But she also has some kind of slightly magical heritage, which is very interesting to learn about. So yeah, and their little trio is just iconic. It's so entertaining. I like the kind of crime fighting, and it's so nice to see women in that role as well. And there is a bit as well of women, and because Hadia is Fatma's apprentice, and they're some of the only women in this Ministry of Special Investigations, which is what they're from. And Fatma doesn't want Hadia as an apprentice, but also she doesn't want to send her away because she is one of the only other women. So I think it's quite interesting, that exploration as well. Yeah, it's just a really great book, and I just can't wait for more people to read it. I will hype it up to no end. So then next, a bit of a change of pace from fantasy, but we have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and this is their newest release, which comes out in May, or actually I think it comes out on the 1st of June or early June. Yeah, it says on sale June 2021. So yeah, this is June. Oh no, I just messed up my order as well because I've got another one that's coming out in May. Anyway, we'll just talk about this first. So this is, yeah, their newest book. The first one, because they're the author of Red, White and Royal Blue, which obviously was massively popular, massively hyped. But I think this one is just as good, if not better. I probably like it more, partly because it's sapphic, so obviously. But also, I just feel like it has slightly more like mature and deeper themes. I don't know, it's still like a fluffy rom-com, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's just slightly more like melancholy in tone. So I really love this one. We're following August, who is this like 23-year-old sort of, I don't really know what her job is. I think she's jobless, but she moves to New York anyway, looking for like a new job. Like typical millennial. And when she's there, she like moves into this apartment with these other like few people, and that whole like friendship and like queer fan family is so good. That's one of my favorite aspects of the book, and the whole like banter between all the like flatmates is so good. Yeah, and then she also on the subway, I think it's the subway, it's not the tube because that's London, but yeah, on the like underground, she meets this mysterious character called Jane. How to describe her, but that's her on the train. Anyway, and she is like, I feel like she's every like sapphic on book Twitter's crush now, who's read the book anyway. But yeah, she's very like charming and but anyway, so August keeps meeting her, but only like on the subway, so it's all a bit mysterious. And then it's found that she's like in this time slip from the 1970s, which is really cool. And so they sort of have this like romance, but only on the train. So it's so funny. And then they're trying to work out like how to fix it almost. So yeah, it's really enjoyable, and it also looks a lot at like New York, which I guess is cool, and also it's kind of New York history and like the queer history of New York. So I think that's really interesting as well. And also this book made me like cry hardcore towards the end, and it's just the kind of like love and like finding your person, and yeah, so it's a really great book, and I feel like it lives up to lives up to Red, White and Royal Blue, and is a very worthy successor. So I'd highly recommend pre-ordering this one. And I feel like sapphic books never do as well as like male ones, so get pre-ordering and show the world that they deserve just as much love. Yeah, okay. Going back to May, because I was naughty and messed up my order, we have The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. And this was one which I read knockoff, and I don't think I was expecting to like it quite as much as I did. And it's really like, you leave it feeling really like empowered about climate change and like wanting to do all this stuff to like save the world, because it's basically set in this like dystopian world where obviously the climate's gotten so bad, so people have sort of moved to these like cities almost in the sky because like rising sea levels and stuff, but not everyone is in these cities in the sky, so it's kind of quite elite, and they've done it like in this kind of almost ranking system where like the more eco-friendly you are, the like lower your ranking, so well, or like the closer to zero your ranking, and so the closer to zero are the more like status you have in society, and the more you're able to like live in these higher levels of these cities. And so it's quite dystopian in that sense. It's kind of told in this dual timeline. One of this character called Ceci, and she's on this island, like mysteriously stranded, and she's trying to escape this island, and we don't really know a lot about what's kind of going on there. It's quite like mysterious at first, and she is trying to get back to her sister, and that's kind of what her like motivations are. And then we're also following Kay, like a few months or whatever earlier seemingly, and she's Ceci's sister, and Ceci's like been missing for a few weeks, and so we're following her in like this city, and she's trying to investigate what happens, but then it sort of becomes her trying to like save the human race from this like extinction level event. So that's kind of the plot, and it's kind of about these two sisters and like the lengths they're willing to go to like find each other. I guess that's in the title, The Ones We're Meant to Find. But also it's so like I don't think ecological is the right word, but like it really looks at like climate change and ecology and like, not ecology, the ecosystem. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but anyway, it's that kind of sense, and the whole thing is told in like a very sort of Studio Ghibli type way. You just get that imagery, and like there's kind of like a plot twist type thing. I mean, I guess you can sort of see it coming, but I thought it was really good and really clever, and exploring also, again, that kind of futuristic like AI type thing, and like, and also it explores how like humans could like wait out the changing of the world, and I don't know, it's very good, and I think it deals with a lot of really good themes, and it goes so much deeper than like a typical YA, and the cover's really pretty as well, so I just think it's really worth like having on your radar and potentially reading. So yeah. Then next we have She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, and this one I feel like is getting a lot of hype, and it is so deserved, because I read this one, I think I read Narc in like December, and it is so good. I feel like it's like, if you like the Poppy War, I mean, not to like compare, because I feel like that's a bit unfair to both authors, but like similarities are there, because they're both sort of Chinese inspired like military history, although very different eras in history. Zhu as the main character is a lot more likeable than Rin. I don't know, I feel like I struggled with Rin a bit, especially in the later books, but they're just so like cheeky and charming, and I feel like it just adds a kind of extra like bit of pizzazz, I don't know what the word is, to the book, and makes you like that a bit more invested, because I feel like the history side of things is very interesting, but also I feel like sometimes books that are so like history focused can get a bit almost like not dry, but I don't know, I feel like sometimes they can read a bit textbooky, but this one definitely doesn't, and the Poppy War also doesn't. I feel like the Poppy War is very good at sort of exploring the history while still making it really engaging like fiction book to read, and again this one does the same thing. So yeah, we're following Zhu, who's like this monk, so basically the start of the book, this is like the very first chapter, so it's not a spoiler, but her brother and father die, and so she then pretends to like become her brother and takes on his role, because he's always been told he has a great fate, and Zhu's been told, oh no, actually the brother's name is Zhu, but anyway, so Zhu is told that she's like be a nobody, so the whole book she's trying to escape this fate of being a nobody, and I think that's quite like resonant, because it's almost like everyone is striving to like be someone, and no one wants to sort of be left behind by history, and I feel like that's kind of Zhu's like main driving force as a character, like they're trying to make a name for themselves. So then she goes to this monastery and like becomes a monk, posing as her brother the whole time. And then it kind of skips forward a few years, and she's kind of travelling around as a monk, but gets themselves involved in like the army, and there's this like kind of, I think it's the fall of the Mongol dynasties, or that kind of era of history, and so yeah, and that's involved. And then we're also following on the like the opposite side of the army, so like General Ouyang, I can't quite remember his name, and his like prince almost, Essen, and they're kind of quite like, their dynamic is quite interesting as well. And I've heard it compared to Song of Achilles. I don't think I can see that comparison. I don't know where that's come from, but anyway, it's really good like in its own merits. And also I'm not sure I really see the Mulan, I've also heard it compared to Mulan, but other than the like gender bending, I don't think it's similar to that either. But I do think it's a really good book and worth reading and pre-ordering, so yeah, get on that. And the cover is so pretty as well, like, oh, I don't know, just something about the pattern just really appeals to me. So yeah. Okay, and then the last one we have Psalm for the Wild Bill by Becky Chambers, and I am a big Becky Chambers fan. I've rearranged my bookshelf, so now I have Becky Chambers here, all her books. Yes, so anyway, and this is her newest book, and it is a novella, and it is completely separate from any of her other books. I think it's the start of a new series called like the Monk and Robot series. And it's set in this one, I think I've heard it described as like solar punk, which is kind of cool, and it's this really like almost botanical world. So you have these like cities, and they're very like, it's set kind of in a futuristic society, but very like eco future, and like so everything's very like eco-friendly, and that's one of my favorite things to like read about in books. I don't know, because it just gives you like hope for the future also, and you can like see that the kind of innovations are there, it's just human greed is not willing to execute them. But anyway, that's another tangent. But yeah, so it's this kind of like, yeah, solar punky world, and everything's very like eco-friendly, and we're following Dex, who is this monk, and they at the beginning of the book are like a gardening monk, for lack of a better term, but they decide that they're not happy with their life, so they want a change, so they become a tea monk. And a tea monk is a type of monk who like goes around visiting places and like making people tea and just kind of chatting with them about their lives and like making them the perfect cup of tea to like suit their needs. And I just think that is such a great concept. Like I would just love that. Like, I mean, I guess it's like a cafe, but it's sort of a slightly more personalised cafe. And I think just reading about that, like at the moment with the whole situation, like we can't go to cafes and everything, it just felt so like poignant. Along those lines, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so Zoo is a tea monk for, no, not Zoo, that's she became the son. So Dex is a tea monk for a bit, and then decides again that they're not feeling fulfilled. So they sort of escape into the wilds, or like the wilderness, to try and find this like monastery where apparently in the past that people have like sought just to break from the world, like a hermit type. I don't know what, hermitage? No, oh, I don't know. Anyway, this ancient like monastery that Dex just wants to go to. I'm getting all characters like confused now. So again, they sort of leave behind their life and just sort of set off into the wilderness. And then once they're in the wilderness, they come across this robot called Moscap. And basically in the world, like a few hundred years ago, there was this kind of thing where all like AI basically became sentient. And they all decided that they were just going to take themselves off into the wilderness rather than like overthrow the human race or whatever. So there's kind of in this pact that the robots are going to do their stuff in the wild and the humans are going to do their stuff like in the cities. And so Dex and Moscap's the robot, are like the first human and robot who have ever like interacted in like hundreds of years. And so they just strike up this like little friendship, and they just kind of talk about life and like contemplate on life. And basically Moscap is trying to find what humans need, which I think is a really interesting concept, especially since Dex is like someone that really doesn't know what they need and they're just struggling to kind of find their path in life. So I think it's very interesting, and there's so many like light moments of humour, but also it's really like exploring sort of what like it means to be human and what it means to have a purpose, and like how you have worth like as a person even if you're not doing anything like productive, and you still deserve like love and stuff. It's just got so many great messages. Like Becky Chambers is just the queen of like heartwarming messages, and it just feels like having a break from the world while you're reading it. And I don't know, it's just so good. Just read it or pre-order it. Yeah, so that is the video. Let me know in the comments which book of these you are most excited for, and also any other upcoming books that you think I should have on my radar or be pre-ordering. I'd really love to know. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope you're all having a really great day, and I'll see you next time.